It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, the fun is continuing on here at the Sam Lesante Show with my guest, no stranger to Northeastern Pennsylvania. He has been a radio announcer, TV personality, currently doing columns for the Standard Speaker, and is now on WILK every Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. His name is L.A. Tarone, and is a man I've admired for many, many years. Why? Because he does his homework, and he doesn't play any games. I agree with him about 90% of the time, but that's okay. He's still a friend of mine. And L.A., it's nice to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I told you I'm going to get you for 2 shows.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. No, the reason is you know, if you missed the first show, folks, you know, it's on the internet, on the website. You got to watch the first show. L.A., when you're talking about, you know, getting information, and that's what we do, okay? The biggest, and I don't want to be braggadocious, but the biggest thrill for me is when someone comes up to me and my wife Debbie and they say, "Sammy, really like your show because you give us information," particularly people who don't get out. They don't get out and be able to have you one-on-one other than call your talk show. So with that being said, we talked about your research. We talked about you know, how you do research. Continuing on the country today, are we as a country, okay, in better shape than we were 8 years ago?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't know how you could make the case that we are. You try to, you know, I've heard the Obama administration say that, you know, some economic numbers are up a little bit. You have to understand that capitalism will always go through up and down cycles. That will always happen. And many years ago, for example, if you look at the Panic of 1871, the Panic of 1873, that's what they used to call recessions in those days. They were total, complete collapses. Over the years, the government has tried to put in safeguards that try to prevent a bottom crash, and it also cuts a little bit from some of the peaks. So, like, I don't know that we could ever have a depression like we did again in 1932 because there are so many controls put in. But I think we're at the point where there are so many controls that it not only makes the bottom a little less rocky than it was before them, it also makes reaching those peaks almost impossible. A couple of weeks ago, I got in an argument with somebody on air, and I pulled up a chart of the growth in, it was called GNP then, they now call it GDP, there's a slight difference, during the 1980s and what we've seen of late. For example, do you realize that the growth in GNP in 1984 was 7.4%? Good. Around that were 4s and 5s, and over the last few years, we're looking at 1.2, 1.6, 1.1. It's so anemic that it barely makes up for any raise in inflation. So I don't know how you could possibly make the argument that we're in better shape than we were 8 years ago. Internationally, you forget this, there hasn't been peace in the Middle East in centuries, but it was relatively calm when the Obama administration, with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, first assumed office. It's a disaster now. Now, I don't think it's fair to say that they're wholly responsible for it, but I think Hillary is partially responsible for it because of the Arab Spring and the toppling of Gaddafi that left a big vacuum, that ISIS moved in and took over the country in a major part of that region.
Okay, so now correct me if this statement's wrong that I'm saying, because I remember when Obama ran, okay, and he was had all the college kids, you know, Sam got.
He was cool. That's why.
Yeah, and he had the college kids. I got jobs for you, and he had all the hippies and the SUV people and all these people that were, you know, he's my man, and he went to the African Americans, and let me tell you, I was always proud, you know, when I saw an Italian who was a judge, etc. Now, I was stupid then because I never realized that you should check his qualifications other than his last name, okay? Right. But that's, you know, I learned from that. But here they come out and there are more college kids living with their parents after they graduate. Yes. They go after the African, and this is the thing that really gets me. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. There are more African Americans out of work today than there ever been. There are more African Americans who are on welfare than has ever been. There are more Hispanics out of work than there have ever been. Now tell me, I don't understand this,
Well,
LA.
there are several high-profile blacks who have said we have been shortchanged by the Obama administration. One of them was Sean Combs, who was known as Puff Daddy years ago, and he's a high-profile entertainer. He's not hot anymore. He hasn't had a hit record in a long time, but he made that statement. There were several others who said that we've kind of been shortchanged, because you're right, the black unemployment is higher now than it was when he took office, and the black teenage unemployment rate is well over 50%, which again is something that, if you look at it, it's kind of strange, because in the early 50s, when things were supposed to be very bad, the black teenage unemployment rate was half that of the white teenage unemployment rate. Now it's almost double that. I know a lot of things have changed in the intervening years, but it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition that things have flipped completely in the passage of several decades. So no, I think that the black population is a perfect right to look at the Obama administration and feel shortchanged. And I think that's why Donald Trump has made such an outreach to the African American community over the last several weeks. I thought he was very effective at that church in Detroit the other day. Yeah. I thought he was very effective in that speech in Philadelphia the other day. So we'll see. I saw one poll recently where he got 9% of the vote, which is far more than any Republican candidate has gotten for many years.
I think, from what I'm sensing now, I think panic is setting in to a degree with the Clinton administration. I think there's panic setting in, and we don't know where else. And this is not bashing Hilton or Clinton, but the point is, when you look at all the facts, they just don't add up. Trump has provided thousands of jobs for many people, created a lot of jobs, etc. And that's why I think the establishment. I'm so disappointed in Jeb Bush. I am shocked at him. I'm shocked at Mitt Romney. I'm shocked at these people that are.
Romney, yes. Bush, no. I'm not the least bit surprised at Bush. That's exactly. He acted exactly the way I would have expected.
Right?
It to. Yes.
Well,
Romney's a different story. Romney, I'm very surprised at too, and very disappointed with it. I was a big Romney supporter.
And Cruz, I know there was some problems there, but to just.
I was at the convention, as you know. WILK sent this, and I was sitting in the crowd, the second level, the night that Cruz did what he did.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting around, the place is packed, and it's as though he's teasing us. The endorsement's coming, and then it never came. And I've never heard such resounding boos, along with some obscenities, and I was among those yelling them, as he walked to the stage, and he got pretty much booed off the stage because he teased everyone.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. I do know. I do think I know. He thinks that Trump is going to get his clock cleaned, and then he will walk in as the nominee in 4 years. And I, first of all, don't think Trump is going to get his clock cleaned, but even if he does, that doesn't automatically set Cruz up to be the nominee in 4 years. I think Cruz would have a very difficult time winning any national elections.
I think he, don't even go on the stage if you're going to do that. And I think Trump was a gentleman when he came out. I mean, he was very kind on that point. Getting back to Hillary's statement on, and this is the thing that really gets me, and please correct me in this area, or give me whether you think my thinking is right. In Greater Hazleton, we have Atlantic Carbon, who are doing a fabulous job cleaning up anthracite, which is carbon is so very important, as you're aware of it. Jeansville is a situation where if they have not addressed this fire, LA, and this comes from Udichak, Two Hill, Barletta.
That's Centralia too, if they're
right.
not. Yeah.
So they're in here, and if this fire would be able to continue, according to what was said, this fire could continue under the Hazleton area.
It could.
Okay. I mean, we're talking major, serious.
Right.
Now here they are, the coal industry, protecting our environment. Then we have Hillary, who says, I want to put them out of business. Now, if I lived in Hazleton, I don't know why I would vote, other than she wants to kill unborn babies as much as you can. I throw that in all the time. You know
I see that.
You know that. But here we are. We have people in Hazleton who are saying, we got to vote for Hillary. We got to. You understand? She's going to put these people out of business, okay? And you're going to have more of the and this fries these staunch Democrats.
Look, the coal industry has taken its. I mean, it is still viable. It still exists. As a matter of fact, even though the percentage is dropping, I believe the last number I saw, it's responsible for about 43% of the electricity generation in the United States. Now that number is going to drop. Yeah. A lot of coal plants have been switching to natural gas because it's cleaner and you don't have the expense of having to get rid of waste. What do you do with the ashes? You got to put them somewhere. So it will eventually drop off a little bit. But she has, and the Democrat Party as a whole has done this, and that's to downplay coal to the greatest degree possible. President Obama made it perfectly obvious that he wanted to put it out of business as well, and he's tried to do that with a lot of regulations from EPA. Eventually, I mean, coal, it's never going to completely go away, but what they're talking about replacing it with are solar energy, wind energy. Look, I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but when you look at what it costs to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity with coal and natural gas versus any of the green technology, the cost is like 30 times more, and much of that is government subsidy.
But a part of that, okay, we've been having these people on the show. The anthracite, okay, is the carbon factor. It's not really, they're not using that as much for energy, LA. It's the carbon factor, okay? And the environment is, I mean, it's fabulous. I mean, they're protecting the environment. So it's not like the old days, okay? Okay. So it's the anthracite, which is important. Let me move on. I'm talking to LA Tarone, folks. Part 2 of the Sam Lesante Show. If you missed part 1, get to our website and watch it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, folks, 24/7 SSPTV.com. All the shows we produce, and for those of you who are just tuning us in, like from Lackawanna County and the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, we have a number of locally produced shows, The Girls, all around the towns, and many, many shows. On Comcast 190, Pottsville, Comcast 190, Lackawanna County, Service Electric Communications, Channel 92 in the Wilkes-Barre, Kingston area, and of course our home base here, Service Electric Cablevision, great people, on 2 channels, 13 and 513. My guest, L.A. Tarone. You can listen to him every Monday through Friday, 6 to 9, no stranger to the industry. L.A., upcoming elections. Let's talk about the Barletta-Marsicano situation. What's your opinion?
Well, they know each other well. If you remember the last time they faced each other, Barletta ran a write-in campaign and defeated Marsicano very handily on the Democratic side. I like Mike. I think he probably did a better job as mayor than he's gotten credit for being, but I frankly don't see this as being much of a race. I think Barletta is going to win by a substantial margin.
Okay, let's turn to, which is going to be an interesting game, the Connolly-Cartwright, which is, what about that?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at is probably what you saw the last time, that Moylan ran very well in the southern, because the 17th Congressional District is one of the ugliest drawn districts in history. It's like there's a big ball here, and then there's this little thing that goes in there, and well, I think you'll see that same kind of split, that Connolly can run very well in Schuylkill County and Northampton and the part of the Lehigh Valley that's in the district. But he's going to have a very difficult time in Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. Both cities are in the 17th. And you have to give the edge to Cartwright. I've talked to Connolly several times, had him on a couple of times on the radio, and I've told him, you really got to get up there and do something in Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. And thus far, he hasn't. I don't know if he's got the money. You have to make Cartwright the favorite going in, although I'd like to see Connolly pull the upset.
Staying with that election, and Connolly's been on my show twice with Moylan, and I've said to him, I'm very disappointed in Cartwright, because I think he says one thing and does the other thing, okay, as far as his philosophies are concerned. But do we vote for Cartwright because he has a lot of friends, and he has lawyer friends and people, and I like him. It's just like, if you ran for office, L.A. Tarone, he's a nice guy. Oh, I know, you got to vote for L.A. You could probably know crap about what you're running for. And when you look at the country today, and all the municipalities and the cities, people who just voted because you got to vote for Lesante, you got to vote for Tarone, you got to vote for Latinsky, you got to vote for Harrigan, okay? That's why these people are suffering today,
Well,
LA.
and in Cartwright's case, that is how he got elected. You have to remember that when they did redistricting, that district was drawn as a safe district for Democrat Tim Holden, Blue Dog Democrat Tim Holden. Holden never expected a challenge from the left of the Democratic Party, and he got one, and he was beaten, and that's how he was beaten. Cartwright knew everybody in the law. He had all kinds of friends in Dunmore and Scranton, and hey, get there, vote, and
Does that
that worked.
qualify this guy to be the congressman?
Well, theoretically, no. Just knowing a lot of people doesn't. I mean, if you know a lot of people and you listen to them and you're worried about their concerns, that's one thing. I guess that helps. But, I mean, when you look at Cartwright's voting record, he's been a rubber stamp for the Obama administration. He has never disputed any single thing that the Obama administration
And where
has.
are we?
Well,
And where are we, LA?
No.
Okay, let's look at Social Security, okay? I'm looking at this ad, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm looking at the ad with McGinty and Toomey, okay? Now, Toomey is not really one of my best guys, okay? But when I have to do the Ben Franklin close,
Yeah.
pros and cons, okay?
Yeah.
I see McGinty, and I see these paid actors, of course, saying, oh, he wanted to address our Social Security. He wanted to do this, okay? Now, LA, if you go back and you talk to anyone,
Yes.
okay, in the stock market, etc., if they would have done that, they would be way ahead of the game.
Well, Bush's proposal was to take 4% of your Social Security earnings and have the right to invest them.
Yeah.
He was crucified for it.
Yes.
That's the last time there's been any proposal to do anything about Social Security. And the Democrats have been doing this forever.
Oh, yes.
Every 4 years, pull out Social Security. He wants to privatize Social Security. To my knowledge, Pat Toomey, even when Bush was in office and Toomey was in Congress,
Yeah.
I don't know which way he voted for it. Nobody, no Republican on the ballot now has said anything about Social Security, period. It's the Democrat ploy. Babies are going to die in the streets, and they'll take your Social Security away. They've been saying the same crap since 1965, and it's kind of sickening and disgusting to hear by now because
and
it's a lot of
the poor
nonsense.
senior citizens out there, okay, are listening to this stuff and saying, oh, you know, Mabel, did you hear that? You know, Toomey wants to, you know, and because Ginty is coming out. Now, let's talk about those two, okay? I do not know them. I know of them, okay?
I interviewed Toomey a couple of times.
Okay.
I never had the chance
So
to talk to him.
what are your thoughts about those two?
The polls show it very close. McGinty up by 2 points, Toomey up by 2 points, depending on what you look at. I have a hard time believing that Kathleen McGinty is getting taken that seriously. The Philadelphia Inquirer just Tuesday of this week put a story on the front page that really was kind of a slam at her about all the special interest ties she has and how she cultivated them between her years with the Clinton administration, because she was an under secretary in EPA, and before she went to work for Rendell as DEP secretary in Pennsylvania. She made lots of ties, and what she did was she said, you know, that regulation you're trying to get around, well, I wrote it, pay me, and I'll show you how to get around it. She made an awful lot of money like that. If you remember, when she was DEP secretary, there were questions about her husband firm getting so much so many DEP contracts that Rendell eventually had to step in and put a stop to it. I think that Toomey may get the scare of his life, but I think he will pull it out by not comfortable, but 4 or 5 points.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Governor Wolf?
I have never been a supporter of his. I was a very strong supporter of Tom Corbett. I thought Corbett did a great job.
The best.
Wolf, my opinion has changed somewhat, and part of this is because his tactics have changed. It's one thing to disagree with somebody. It's something else to find somebody who is also incredibly disagreeable. Wolf was seemingly looking for a fight at every conceivable turn. His press secretary, a guy named Jeff Sheridan, would scoff at the other side. Since the budget standoff, during the budget standoff, Wolf made a very tactical decision. I will back off the big tax hike that I want, and I will become more conciliatory. We had a budget done in 4 weeks after that. It was a good move that Wolf has made, and I respect the fact that he did that. And I think, well, I'm still not a supporter of his. I'm probably not going to vote for him. I didn't vote for him last time. But my opinion of his and my respect for him has come up tremendously over the last 3 or 4 months. If you'd have asked me a year ago, I would have spent the last 5 minutes panning him and ripping him. I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore because I think
You think he's a one-termer?
I think there's a very good chance that he will be a one-termer. Yeah.
Folks, I'm talking to L.A. Tarone. I told you it'd be an exciting show. Remember, I've said
Scott
this.
Wagner, by the way. Scott Wagner, watch. He's going to be the Republican nominee.
Is that right?
I think so.
He may be running against our friend John Dudicek.
We'll see. But I ran into Wagner at the convention in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah?
And I tried to get him to say something. He said, I can't tell you that. Well, but I hear you're running for governor. I can't tell you that. So that says to me, yes, he's running.
L.A. Tarone, folks, we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, 24/7, SSPTV.com. My email, sam@SSPTV.com. My guest today, part 2 of the Sam Lesante Show, L.A. Tarone. Listen to him every Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. It is Experience on WLK. Continue on, L.A., with your analysis here on the election. Now, you had an article about Kane, okay? From the very beginning, did you think that she was in trouble from the very start, or did you think that she was going to overcome that?
I never thought she could survive this. I wasn't quite sure that she would ever resign the office. I knew she was going to drag out this fight as long as possible. My problem with Kathleen Kane, first of all, her resume was very thin. She went from an ADA who never really handled major high-profile cases to running for Attorney General. Now, she had a lot of things going for her. You're the woman, nice-looking, attractive woman, and really turned out the vote. My problem with her began the day she started her campaign and is already saying, we have to get somebody because this investigation with Jerry Sandusky, things were hidden and it looks like the governor was responsible. Well, I'm sorry, you don't take an office that is supposed to be, that theoretically is apolitical, which the Attorney General's office is supposed to be, and turn it into an attack dog for one party or the other. That's what she did right from the beginning. So I have always had a problem with her. This thing that she was convicted of, part of her defense was this is done all the time. Well, I don't know that it's done all the time. It is true that when you get leaks about court cases, they came from somebody involved. Most often it's the defense, not the prosecution, but occasionally it's the prosecution. But I was convinced that she was guilty of leaking it because she had a score to settle with Frank Fina, and this was her way to settle it. And I'm not at all surprised that she was found guilty. I think the column that got a lot of people mad was when I said, despite her conviction, that she didn't belong in jail.
Yeah, I read that.
I don't think she deserves jail time because I don't think she's a danger to anybody. Mm-hmm. Her crime was one of ambition, almost Nixonian paranoia more than anything else. I don't think she hurt anybody, and I don't think it's worth putting somebody like her in state prison and having to spend $36,000 a year to take care of her. Garnish her wages or something, sure.
How about the current race now with the Attorney General Rafferty and Shapiro?
I wrote a column the other week that I think we should go back to letting the governor pick the attorney generals. And these are the two candidates I used as examples. Both the Democrats and the Republicans had better candidates in the primary who had real experience. You had two county DAs running on the Democrat side in Zappala and Morganelli. And on the Republican side, Joe Peters has 60 times the experience that John Rafferty does. We had a beauty contest and we picked these two guys.
But now what do we do?
Well, I have to say that when I look at Shapiro, I see somebody who's going to act a lot like the Attorney General from New York and file a lot of class action lawsuits against utilities and things like that, and we're going to get 9 cents a piece for it. I'm very leery about Shapiro because he's very much in that mold, and he also wants to use this as an office to run for governor or Senate as a stepping stone more than anything else. I'm not crazy about him, but I guess I'll vote for Rafferty.
Corbett, what was your opinion of Governor Corbett?
Thought he did a great job. But I did not vote for him. Mm-hmm. I was not convinced. Mm-hmm. I thought he was too conservative socially, because I'm not all that conservative socially, and not conservative enough fiscally. Turned out I was wrong. I thought he did a terrific job. He's the first governor we ever had to actually cut spending and worry about a spending increase. And he paid the price for it. He did what he said he was going to do. And he lost.
He was on my show 6 times.
Yes.
The guy said, I'm promising you in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm going to do this. And he did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
And he paid for it.
Yeah. I mean, he was an honest politician.
Yes.
So everyone says, we got to get honest politicians. And you know what?
Well, you had one.
It's a lot of bull.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
LA, it's so nice to have you on the show.
Thank
okay.
you.
I wish
Thank
you the
you. It was
best.
fun.
WILK, folks, you got to listen to him 6 to 9 and read his column every Sunday in the Standard Speaker. It's fantastic. Remember 24/7 SSPTV.com. And yes, you people who think we're being one-sided, I'm not. I want you to know that I've invited them. I've told you John Udechak is a great guy. I'd love to see him as governor. He's a Democrat. We'll see you next time.